What about a lot of times I would ask this question first, the quarterback position. JJ McCarthy gets drafted by the Minnesota Vikings, number 10 overall, and there's very little experience besides a 6-year guy in Jack Tuttle. Maybe he'll be in the mix, but Alex Orji could be great. We're not 100% sure, kind of a question mark there, but he's the presumptive starter, Phil. That's what I've been saying. How do you look at the Michigan quarterback position?
I have two question marks on this year's team. I have no question mark about the defense, no question mark about the run game or the receivers, the offensive line, how much of a drop off from last year, and then naturally the quarterback. If Orji wins a job, there's no doubt this guy's an athlete. I mean, he's 6'3", 236, dangerous runner. He carries himself like he's the starter, but you wonder about the completion percentage and how that would work out. Warren's got a big arm. Jack Tuttle is a guy that's got the most experience, could be a game manager. But you're going from a guy that got drafted in the top 10 of the NFL draft and was a veteran starter to a bunch of inexperience and pretty much question marks. I don't think any of these three guys get drafted next year like J.J. McCarthy did. So really the quarterback is the elephant in the room right now.
Yeah, well, for Michigan, they play that old school football where it's not quarterback and spread it out and throw the ball downfield. They'll rely on their defense, and they're going to run the ball an awful lot. And of course, if it's Orji, you already mentioned about his athleticism, and he has been in even last year. They had different packages for him. He was running the ball. So it might be one of those things where it could be a work in progress when you have a defense able to get that ball back for you. Although, they got Texas staring at them on the 7th. So it could take a while to develop, but they got to get it going pretty quick.
Yeah, and that's really going to be the key. And like you touched on, Dennis, I mean, even when McCarthy was the quarterback the last 2 years, they didn't make him throw the football over the field. They didn't open him up. They kept him sort of playing the game that Michigan plays. So that is a benefit for this season. I do not like the fact that Texas game is game 2 for Michigan because, I touched on the fact that Michigan was number 7 in my experience chart last year. This year, they're number 117. And so a big drop off in experience, and it may take a little bit to get that going. So Texas week 2 is a tough test because of the 4 playoff teams last year, only one of them has their head coach back and their quarterback as well, and that's Texas, which has one of the best quarterback rooms in the country. That's going to be quite a test week 2. I'm glad it's in the big house for Michigan fans, but I do think Michigan's a slight underdog in that game at home.
Yeah, they are. We'll ask you a little bit about that game against the Longhorns. Let me finish up on the offensive side. You said you like some of the other skill positions, wide receiver. Michigan's been doing a good job at tight end. Of course, running back, they lose Blake Corum, but they've got a lot of good options there. How do you see the other skill positions there other than the quarterback at Michigan?
Yeah, running back Donovan Edwards, I think, will really have himself a good year. I think he was one of the top running backs coming out of high school. Sort of was in the shadow of Corum last year, especially when they got near the goal line. I look for a lot more touchdowns out of Edwards this year. But they also have guys like Khalil Mullings, a guy that's highly underrated, and then Jordan Marshall, the true freshman. The coach is really high on him. So I like the running back core, no doubt about it. You touched on the tight end. Might have the best tight end in the country in Colston Loveland. They've also got Marlon Klein there, who's another guy who's 6'6", 245, and could be just as good as Loveland. So it's great to work with tight ends. And the thing is, Dennis, one thing I've noticed, look at the teams at the top lately, like Georgia and Michigan. All the defenses, what they do with that, what used to be the strong side linebacker position, they've sort of dumbed that down, turned it into a nickelback, gotten smaller, faster on the defense. When you line up with 2 tight ends, you're going against, I think it's an advantage. It's a mismatch for the offense. So I do like 2 tight end offenses. And then you look at the receiving core. I think when you look at Tyler Morris, he's a guy that could have a big year. He should be their number 1 receiver by far. They also have Frederick Moore, a guy that can take the top off. They bring in C.J. Charleston from Youngstown State. And the thing I've also found out going through all these teams with the coaches and going through all the players is that these FCS transfers, as long as they have experience, step right in and do well their first year. So keep your eyes on Charleston as well. Overall, I like the receiving core. I like the running back core even better.